Most people think of long weekends as a reset, a short break from routine, a chance to step away from the familiar and come back feeling normal again. But returning is sometimes stranger than leaving. When you're gone for a few days, you expect everything to stay frozen in place. Same silence, same rooms, same details waiting for you. And when something has changed, just slightly, it stands out in a way that's hard to explain. These are 3 true stories sent in by people who experienced something disturbing after a long weekend. Nothing dramatic at first, just quiet moments that never sat right afterward. This first story was sent in by someone named Ryan. Ryan lives in a quiet residential area just outside of Portland. It is the kind of neighborhood where people recognize each other's cars, wave politely when they pass, and rarely expect anything unusual to happen. Most nights are silent. Most mornings look exactly the same. That sense of routine is something Ryan had grown comfortable with over the years. He had been living in the house for a little over 3 years. It was not new, but it was well maintained, and nothing strange had ever happened there before. No unexplained noises, no missing items, no reason to ever feel uneasy. That changed after a long holiday weekend. Ryan and his girlfriend decided to spend a few days away at a small cabin several hours from home. It was a last-minute plan, meant to be relaxing. No phones, no schedule, just time away from work and the city. They left late Thursday night after finishing their shifts. Before getting into the car, Ryan did what he always did. He walked through the house slowly, room by room. He checked the windows. He locked the doors. He unplugged appliances. He made sure nothing was left running. He even paused at the front door and looked back down the hallway one last time. He clearly remembered turning off the porch light. The bulb had been flickering earlier that week, and he had mentioned it out loud while switching it off. It was a small moment, but one that stuck with him because he remembered thinking about replacing the bulb when they got back. The weekend passed without incident. They didn't return home until late Monday night, close to midnight. The drive back felt longer than usual. The roads were quiet, and both of them were tired and looking forward to sleeping in their own bed. As Ryan pulled into the driveway, the first thing he noticed was the porch light. It was on. At first, he stayed in the car, staring at it longer than necessary. He felt a brief sense of confusion, followed by a quick attempt to explain it away. Maybe he had forgotten. Maybe it turned on automatically. Maybe he was just tired. He didn't say anything at first. Inside the house, everything appeared normal. The front door was still locked. The windows were closed. There were no signs of damage or forced entry. Their cat ran toward them immediately, acting exactly the same as always, rubbing against their legs and meowing for food. That helped ease the tension. They put their bags down and moved through the house casually. Lights turned on, shoes came off. Nothing seemed obviously wrong. But as Ryan started to settle in, he noticed small details that didn't match his memory. The thermostat was set lower than usual, not dramatically, but enough that the house felt colder than it should have been after sitting empty for only a few days. One of the kitchen chairs was slightly pulled away from the table, not knocked over, not out of place, just angled as if someone had stood up and left it there. In the bathroom, the trash can was empty. Ryan paused when he noticed that. He remembered it being nearly full before they left. He had considered taking it out, but decided to wait until they got back. None of these things felt alarming on their own. His girlfriend joked that maybe someone had broken in just to clean. Ryan left along with her, but the feeling didn't go away. The changes were subtle, too organized to feel random, too minor to clearly mean anything. They went to bed shortly after that. Sometime around 3 in the morning, Ryan woke up suddenly. At first, he wasn't sure what had pulled him out of sleep. The room was dark and quiet. Then he heard it. Footsteps. They were coming from upstairs, slow, measured, crossing the hallway above their bedroom. Ryan lay still, listening carefully. His first thought was that his girlfriend had gotten up for water or the bathroom, but when he turned his head slightly, she was asleep beside him, breathing evenly, completely still. The footsteps continued for several seconds, then stopped. Ryan waited. A moment later, he heard a soft sound, like a door being closed carefully, not slammed, not rushed, almost considerate. He did not move, he did not speak. He stayed completely still until morning. When daylight came, they checked the house together. Every door was locked, every window was closed. Nothing appeared to be missing, no drawers disturbed, no cabinets open. But when they reached the guest room, the one they never used, Ryan felt his stomach drop. The closet door was open. He knew for certain it had been closed before they left. Inside the closet, on the floor, was a disposable coffee cup, empty, slightly crushed, still carrying a faint smell of coffee. It wasn't theirs. It wasn't from any place nearby. Neither of them recognized it. After that, Ryan replaced every lock in the house. He installed new deadbolts. He checked the windows twice before bed every night. Nothing like it has happened again. No footsteps, no strange changes, no signs of anyone being there. But Ryan says that ever since that weekend, leaving the house for more than a day makes him uneasy. Before every trip, he walks through each room slowly, memorizing how everything looks, because now he knows how unsettling it feels to come home and realize something changed while he was gone. The second story was sent in by a woman named Lauren. Lauren works overnight at a small office building in downtown Phoenix. The building mostly houses administrative offices, nothing that requires a night shift, but someone has to be there in case of system alerts, deliveries, or emergencies. That someone is usually Lauren. After spending a long holiday weekend visiting family out of state, she returned straight to work on Monday night. She was exhausted, slightly jet-lagged, but also relieved to fall back into her usual routine. Night shifts were familiar to her, predictable, quiet. The building was almost completely empty after dark. At night, it was just Lauren on one floor and one other employee stationed several floors above her. They rarely crossed paths, but knowing someone else was in the building always made the shift feel less isolating. Most nights passed slowly. Emails, reports, occasional system checks, long stretches of silence broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. Around 11 p.m., Lauren glanced at the security camera monitor on her desk, mostly out of habit. That's when she noticed movement. On one of the hallway feeds, a shadow passed across the frame. It wasn't fast and it wasn't dramatic, just the clear outline of something moving through the corridor. Her first thought was the cleaning crew, but when she checked the schedule, she paused. The cleaners weren't scheduled for that night. Their visits were usually earlier in the evening, and she always saw them sign in at the front desk. She watched the camera feed for another minute. Nothing moved. A few minutes later, her desk phone rang. The sound was sharp in the quiet office. Lauren answered casually, expecting it to be her coworker or possibly an automated system alert. No one spoke. She waited a second, then said, "Hello again?" Still nothing. After a moment, she hung up, assuming it was a technical issue. The building was old and the phone system wasn't perfect. Less than a minute later, the phone rang again. This time, when Lauren answered, she didn't hear silence. She heard breathing. It was slow, steady, controlled. Not distorted or mechanical, it sounded like someone holding the receiver close, listening. Lauren froze. She didn't speak. She didn't ask who was there. After a few seconds, she hung up and immediately called the other employee in the building. He answered quickly and told her he hadn't left his desk all night. He hadn't used the phone. He hadn't seen anyone. Trying to stay calm, Lauren turned back to the security cameras. The hallway where she'd seen the shadow earlier was empty, but something was different. The break room door was open. She was certain it had been closed earlier. She remembered walking past it not long before and noticing the lights were off. Lauren hesitated. She considered calling security right away, but part of her didn't want to overreact. The building had motion sensors, and no alarms had gone off. Everything still felt explainable, at least on the surface. She stood up from her desk and stepped into the hallway. The lights flickered on automatically as she walked, illuminating the long corridor leading to the break room. Her footsteps echoed softly against the floor. Halfway down the hall, she stopped. From inside the break room, she heard something move. It sounded like an object sliding across the floor, slow, controlled, not falling, not being knocked over. She listened closely. A moment later, she heard the sound of a chair being pushed back under a table, slowly, deliberately. Lauren didn't call out. She didn't take another step. She turned around and walked back to her office as calmly as she could manage. Once inside, she locked the door, turned off the lights, and called building security. While she waited, she sat quietly at her desk, listening. The phone did not ring again. The hallway cameras showed nothing. When security arrived, they searched the entire floor, then the rest of the building. They found no one. No unlocked doors, no signs of forced entry, no alarms triggered. But when one of the guards checked the break room trash, he paused. Inside was a food container. It was unopened, but still cold to the touch, as if it had been placed there recently. Lauren knew it hadn't been there earlier in the night. She finished her shift sitting in silence, counting the minutes until sunrise. Less than a week later, Lauren quit that job. She says the most unsettling part wasn't the phone call, or the noise, or even the open door. It was how quickly everything returned to normal afterwards. as if whatever was there knew exactly when to leave.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun.
The final story was sent in by a college student named Ethan. At the time this happened, Ethan was living alone in a small ground-floor apartment near his university campus. The building itself was older, with thin walls and narrow hallways, but it was generally quiet. Most of the residents were students who kept to themselves, and there was rarely any noise after dark. Ethan had been living there for almost a year without any problems. No strange neighbors, no unexplained noises, no reason to ever feel unsafe inside his own place. Over a long holiday weekend, Ethan went camping with a few friends. They drove several hours away from the city and stayed at a campsite surrounded by trees, far from cell service and streetlights. The trip was meant to help them reset before the semester picked up again. They returned late Sunday night. Everyone was tired, dirty, and eager to get home. When Ethan was finally dropped off at his apartment, the parking lot was mostly empty. The lights overhead hummed softly, and the building looked exactly the same as when he had left. Nothing appeared out of place. When Ethan unlocked his door and stepped inside, the feeling hit him immediately. Something was wrong. There was no obvious reason for it. The apartment was quiet. The lights were off. Nothing looked broken or disturbed, but the air inside felt heavy, almost stale, like it hadn't been aired out in much longer than a few days. There was also a faint smell. It wasn't strong enough to identify, but it didn't belong. Not food, not trash, just something unfamiliar that made him hesitate in the doorway longer than he normally would. Ethan stood still and listened. No movement, no sound. He told himself he was just exhausted. Camping had left him jumpy and overtired. He stepped inside and locked the door behind him. As he set his bag down, he noticed something that made him stop again. The bathroom light was on. Ethan stared at it for a moment, trying to reason with himself. He was very particular about lights. He always turned them off before leaving, even if he was only gone for a few hours. It was a habit he had picked up early and never broke. He knew he hadn't left it on. Slowly, he walked further into the apartment. He checked the kitchen first. Everything looked normal. The sink was empty. The dishes were where he left them. The trash can was still full, just like he remembered. He moved into the living area. The couch cushions were undisturbed. His backpack was still leaning against the wall where he had dropped it before the trip. His laptop was on the desk, untouched. Nothing appeared stolen. Nothing appeared searched. And yet, the feeling didn't go away. As Ethan approached his bedroom, his pace slowed. The door was open, just as he had left it, but something about the room felt different. His bed was neatly made. The blanket was pulled tight. The pillow was centered perfectly. Ethan never makes his bed. He stood in the doorway, staring at it. His first instinct was to doubt himself. Maybe he had rushed out and forgotten. Maybe one of his friends had joked about it and he didn't remember. But the longer he looked, the more he became, this was not how he left it. Then he noticed something else. Placed carefully in the center of the pillow was his phone charger. The cord was wrapped neatly, not loosely, not tangled, folded with intention. Ethan felt a sudden chill move through him. He realized something then that he hadn't allowed himself to think about before. Someone hadn't just been inside his apartment. Someone had taken their time. He did not step into the bedroom. He did not touch the bed. He slowly backed away, keeping his eyes on the room, then turned and walked out the front door. Once outside, he locked it and moved across the parking lot. He called the police from his phone, sitting on the curb and watching his apartment from a distance. The bathroom light was still on. The bedroom light remained off. Nothing moved. When officers arrived, they searched the apartment thoroughly. They checked the windows, the doors, the closets, even the small space above the bathroom ceiling. They found no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no damaged windows. They suggested it was possible that maintenance had entered accidentally, but Ethan knew that explanation didn't fit. No maintenance request had been filed, and nothing else in the apartment had been touched. He stayed with a friend that night. Over the following weeks, Ethan tried to return to normal, but he never fully relaxed. He checked the locks repeatedly. He slept lightly. Every unfamiliar sound made him sit up and listen. About a month later, he decided to move out. When he told the landlord, the conversation was brief. But as Ethan was finishing the paperwork, the landlord hesitated. Then he said something quietly. He mentioned that a previous tenant had once been arrested. Not for theft, not for damage, for staying inside other people's apartments while the residents were away. Ethan didn't ask for details. Even now, he says the most unsettling part isn't knowing someone had been there. It's wondering how long they stayed, and how closely they must have watched him to know exactly when to leave.